First, I want to thank the Central Virginia IONS community group for inviting me to summarize my experiences as an energy healer and spiritual regression hypnotherapist, and to share what I've learned about the higher dimensions of consciousness, about the universe that we live in. I'd also like to discuss the processes and procedures I've used for experiential exploration of the non-physical realms of existence, and what I've learned about the UFOs in our skies, or what we now call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. To give you a bit of background about myself, I grew up in a small town in southwest Washington state and graduated in 1962 with a degree in radio and TV communications from the University of Washington, and was immediately commissioned as an ensign in the U.S. Navy. In 1970, I was transferred to the Pentagon, where I was the program coordinator for the design and implementation of the Navy's first satellite communications system, including the satellite system architecture, as well as deployment of shipboard equipment. Upon retirement in 1982, I continued to provide system engineering and technical assistance support for additional Department of Defense and related government overhead systems. In 1995, I left the military-industrial complex of government programs, moved to Virginia Beach, Virginia area, and became trained and certified in several alternative and complementary healing systems, such as Reiki and Healing Touch. And in 1996, I also became trained and certified in hypnotherapeutic techniques, initially through the American Board of Hypnotherapy, and later by the National Guild of Hypnotists, as well as the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association. In 1998, I returned to Washington State and opened the Evergreen Healing Arts Center in Chehalis, where I continued to provide both energy healing and hypnotherapeutic services as complementary healing techniques for my clients and students. In 2018, I retired completely, closed my practice, and I'm now enjoying retired life with my growing family, which now includes several great-grandchildren. And I live in the suburbs of metropolitan Winlock, population about 1,200. By 2010, I had developed and documented my Spiritual Journeys self-hypnosis program, and I taught my students how to expand their conscious awareness into a highly altered state that I just call their spiritual area. Here they were able to meet and hold a two-way conversation with their own higher self, spirit guide or guides, as well as other non-physical consciousnesses. After my clients learned how to consciously contact their higher self and spirit guide, they were also taught how to facilitate a healing session for themselves or remotely for another person. But more importantly, they were also taught how to recall their previous soul-level experiences as a non-physical consciousness, and to receive reliable guidance and truthful answers to any questions that was asked. All these experiences and information was able to be remembered consciously, even after emerging themselves from self-hypnosis. In 2012, my Spiritual Journeys students asked me to establish what became our spiritual discussion group, so we could regularly and safely share our individual spiritual experiences in a comfortable, non-judgmental setting. Of the 24 or so students in our spiritual discussion group, 8 were able to develop their ability to consciously navigate the spiritual realms and safely interact with spiritual beings in detailed question-and-answer sessions. These 8 students formed what I initially called our spiritual research group, and we regularly investigated a wide variety of topics such as what information is in the Akashic Records, or what is the angelic kingdom like, and what is the ET presence and activities in our solar system. Other channeling sessions were also held to investigate the cause of a disease, how the Egyptian pyramids were built and by whom, and many, many other topics. In our channeling sessions, there are 3 participants: the director of the session, usually myself, who remains fully conscious and asks questions; the channel, one of my trained students who places themselves into deep self-hypnosis and becomes open and receptive to information from spiritual sources; and the source of the information being provided, usually the channel's spirit guide, an ascended master like Saint Germain, Sananda, or an archangel such as Michael, Gabriel, or Raphael. This channeling method is similar to what Edgar Cayce used, where the questions were asked by Edgar's wife Gertrude or his secretary Gladys, and the channel was, of course, Edgar himself. The reported source of the information provided to Cayce was the Akashic record of all information and experiences of all beings in creation. The main difference between our method of receiving information and Cayce's method is that Cayce was completely unable to remember any information he had provided while in deep trance, whereas my channels were consistently able to consciously observe the source's telepathic information transfer as it occurred, and were also able to consciously remember it after emerging from self-hypnosis. Our spiritual research group found that the most reliable information comes from individual spirit guides, such as the channel's personal guide, or from ascended masters and archangels. These sources have the most extensive direct knowledge of events and actions in this and other dimensions and universes. In addition, they all have direct access to the Akashic record of the complete history of all thoughts, deeds, and actions by all beings who have ever existed. Through repeated interactive channeling sessions, we've established close energetic rapport with the individual soul energy of our primary spiritual guides and the higher selves of each of our channels as well. At the beginning of a typical channeling session, the channel rests in their favorite chair or recliner, and the director says simply, "When you're ready, move into your spiritual area and let me know when you're there," by saying "okay" or "I'm here." A few seconds later, usually no more than 20 seconds, the channel connects with their higher self, and the director can then proceed with the session. When the channel is in their spiritual area, the director is initially in communication with the channel's higher self, or soul-level consciousness. The first thing the director asks is that the channel ensures that they're energetically and psychically safe. This is done by the director asking the channel to state 3 things very clearly. "Dear Creator, I ask that your light and love surround and protect me always. I ask that a clear channel of communication be established now between me and the highest levels of love and wisdom, and that all information I receive be only for the greater good of all concerned. Thank you." The director then usually asks that the channel's higher self call forward their spirit guide and establish contact between the director and guide. Additional sources of information may also be called forward, such as an archangel or ascended master, depending on the issue or information to be discussed. During the entire channeling session, the director remains fully conscious to ask questions, jot down notes, and ask for clarification if any information from this source is not clearly understood. Each channeling session usually lasts about 60 to 70 minutes, or until the source notices that the channel is becoming physically tired. The entire verbal conversation between the director, channel, and source of information is normally recorded on a digital voice recorder, and then later transcribed and kept in our spiritual research group archive for future reference as appropriate. But how do we ensure that the information we receive is valid and truthful? We use 4 levels of validation. First, how do we know that the being we're speaking with is really not a deceiver or a trickster? The director first challenges each and every being whom they meet in the spiritual realms. This is done by first clearly and directly challenging the being in their presence. The director asks if they're in service to the light and love of the one infinite Creator, and secondly, by asking if they are in fact the being whom we called forward. For instance, if you call for your spirit guide to come forward, and you become aware of, or you're imagining that you're seeing a farmer in bib overalls, the proper challenge would be, "Farmer in bib overalls, are you in service to the love and light of the one infinite Creator, yes or no?" Give them no other choice, and if they don't immediately say yes, they're an imposter or a deceiver, and the director needs to banish them immediately by saying out loud, "In the name of the one infinite Creator, I command you to immediately and permanently leave our presence. So be it." And they always do. And then you can call again for the spirit guide to come forward and challenge again whomever or whatever appears. As the channel relays information from the source to the director, is there any indication that the words, ideas, and concepts might reflect the channel's own biases? Several sessions with each channel are usually required to get a good feeling for their clarity and freedom from judgment and willingness to relay information as received without any preconceived biases or personal beliefs. As the director of the channeling session, are the intentions, ideas, and concepts being provided through the channel clearly understood? If additional clarity or explanation would be helpful, be sure to ask for it. Highly evolved spiritual beings are very concerned that the information they provide be received and understood as they intended, and seem to have an infinite patience with us humans. The director must also be willing to suspend judgment if they're given new or difficult information and concepts to consider. And finally, can the channeled information be independently supported or confirmed through other sources? If new information is provided, can it be corroborated through another channel or source? If two or more channels bring through similar information from different sources, the validity of the information is enhanced. But absolute congruence of the information may not be required if similar concepts and core informational themes are provided by different channels from different sources. And if all the above levels of validation are met, I can vouch for the validity of that information, at least until additional experiential information is received that either refutes or supersedes what we accepted before. So now I'd like to share with you some of the more noteworthy experiences I've had over the last 20 years as a spiritual regression hypnotherapist, as well as some of the information that my spiritual research group has compiled. Early on, I was introduced to what I call the voice, which nearly always felt like a comforting mentor encouraging me to explore a certain path as I grew up. Later in life, my spiritual discussion group and spiritual research group had many wide-ranging discussions, sharing each other's experiences and beliefs. I participated in every spiritual research group channeling session we had, either as the director or as the channel. I've also had many discussions with other spiritual hypnotherapists, both online and in person, to share what we're learning. The out-of-body and near-death experiences during my heart bypass operation gave me the firm knowledge and understanding of what it means to be a multidimensional spiritual being. This experience, plus the information and various perspectives of others in the books and publications that I've enjoyed, have been the basis for forming my own truth of how things work in this realm and beyond. And these experiences have all shaped how I see myself and my world, and of what is true for me. So with that, I'd like to share some of what is true for me, at least at this time. But just understand that I'm still working on expanding my own truth. Even though Albert Einstein is reported to have originated this, it's so true when it comes to knowing the difference between reading or hearing about someone else's spiritual experience and vividly experiencing one for yourself. When you experience something, you can't unknow it. It's really real for you. And spiritual regression is the best way I've yet found for spiritual experiences to expand your own truth with a capital T. Past life regression is the process of communicating with the client's higher self or spiritual soul, which is connected with a specific soul memory to better understand how their actions in the distant past may be influencing how they act and feel today. In this universe, one of the fundamental spiritual laws is that you must experience whatever you create. Only then will you have the information of both sides of the coin to better inform you of the consequences of your actions whenever faced with similar choices in the future. Humanity has begun to awaken to the point where many are actively seeking the fundamental truths and rewards of the spiritual realms, while still contending with this physical world of dense polarities. So we've been told that the Akashic records of this universe are now open and available to read, and all we need to do is ask, and the answer will be provided under the following conditions. 1. You must be ready to understand the information you're requesting. 2. The information must not bring harm to yourself or others. And 3. Knowing the information will be in the greater good of all concerned. So when these 3 conditions are met, ask and ye shall receive simply happens. The traditional model for the structure of the physical realm of this universe has been provided by the scientific community's reductionists and is held that the fundamental foundation for all that exists in the universe begins with the fields of understanding demonstrated by Newtonian physics and Einstein's theories of general and special relativity, as well as the more recent theories of quantum mechanics and information theory. Everything is formed from these basic building blocks of reality, the quarks, the muons, electrons, protons, and atoms. These fundamental building blocks described in physics form the chemical elements and molecules that, in turn, form living cells and tissues that develop into organs, limbs, and eventually the individual brain of humans, from which our consciousness arises. However, in the last few decades, a few physicists, cognitive psychologists, and noetic scientists are now proposing that Einstein's space-time model of the universe doesn't completely and correctly describe the fundamental substance that the physical universe is based on, consciousness, and instead posits that Einstein's space-time model is only a useful visual interface for representing the underlying and more fundamental reality of both physical space-time and the spiritual realms. When I first heard of this concept, it physically hit me, and I felt an aha moment resonate very deeply. So until something else comes along to modify or refute this theory, I've included it in my personal evolving truth. There are 2 realms that we know of in which consciousness exists, the spiritual realm and the physical realm. The physical realm is the domain in which space-time and physical things and beings exist. The spiritual realm was created by and from pure consciousness before the physical realm was created, and exists in a dimension of awareness without physical space and without time. Consciousness exists and is expressed by the purely spiritual beings that inhabit the spiritual realm, including Creator itself, the Elohim, the archangels, and the myriad spiritual angelic beings. These conscious beings were created to protect and maintain the harmony of the spiritual realm. Once the spiritual realm was created, Creator then created the physical realm and the innumerable individual souls whose purpose and mission was to explore and experience all of creation. And since each created soul is in constant communication with Creator, Creator is thereby able to experience what its conscious agents, the individual souls, are experiencing, and to thereby increase its knowledge and wisdom of what itself is. This physical universe was created as a realm where each created spiritual being enjoys free will to explore any dimension of the spiritual or physical realms it desired, without judgment. For Creator to endow its creations with free will and then judge them for taking any action would simply be illogical and contrary to its own gift of free will in the first place. And being created in the image of its Creator, each soul also has the ability to create whatever it wishes, although to a lesser degree energetically than Creator, and consistent with its own level of development and experience. But with the ability to use its creative abilities, each soul was required to experience what it created. In the spiritual realm, where there's no time, this afforded the soul the ability to create something and instantly determine whether that was what was intended, and if not, to uncreate it. However, in the space-time domain of the physical realm, when a human creates an object or takes an act that results in physical or emotional injury to another, that human's conscious mind might not be aware of its soul's need to correct the situation. So the soul's need to rebalance an injury to another will always remain as an agenda item until corrected, either in that lifetime or in a future lifetime. Whatever comes around goes around. Do unto others what you would have them do unto you. And we call that karma. Our spiritual research group has also investigated the presence of extraterrestrials in our skies, and we've been introduced to 6 advanced ET races. We talked with at least 2 different representatives from each race, with each session using a different channel, each of whom is blinded to the information channeled by the others. Many extraterrestrial races have existed in other worlds throughout the universe to experience and learn the lessons of duality and polarity of physical existence, and to evolve into cooperative civilizations. However, our solar system was created in a remote part of the Milky Way galaxy about 4.5 billion years ago as an experiment to see if physical life forms could exist in a world with the most extreme polarities and separation from the knowledge of their spiritual heritage, and yet still evolve spiritually into a peaceful and spacefaring civilization. Today we have records that tell of visions and physical visits to Earth thousands of years ago, and in our more recent past, hieroglyphs of both a helicopter and a submarine have been found in an Egyptian pyramid. And more recently, there are Renaissance paintings of UFOs in the skies in some religious paintings. Sightings and reports have continued throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, and we're still relating experiences and sightings by reliable witnesses of more UFOs, which are now called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, that are in our skies even today. The occasional monitoring of humanity increased in frequency as mankind grew out of the Dark Ages and began creating implements and new technologies in the 19th and 20th centuries. However, when we developed the atomic bomb in the 1940s and immediately used it to kill other humans, it was like a danger signal that rang out through the universe, and many more advanced races decided to step up the monitoring of humanity, not only by teleporting their large motherships into our outer solar system, but also by deploying many smaller ships to monitor the immediate vicinity of Earth, as well as on land and under the ocean. One of the races that physically visited Earth was the Greys from Zeta Reticuli, who firmly believed that all of humanity would soon kill itself with nuclear warfare. So they began collecting and archiving human DNA so that when humans destroyed all life on the planet, humanity could someday be restored on another world which could support human life. After our spiritual research group had concluded our conversations with the Greys, the spirit guides of myself and our channels introduced us to Ashtar, a representative of the Galactic Federation and the overall commander of the many ET craft in our skies. Ashtar also informed us that he was the on-scene representative for coordination of several public physical first contact events between humans and the ETs. As reported in my 2016 book, the Galactic Federation was, at that time, also carefully supporting the potential emergence of humanity into the cosmic spacefaring community by preparing to hold several first contact events around the world. These events would physically and visibly introduce humans to their galactic neighbors. One scenario for holding these introductions to our cosmic brothers and sisters is to hold a series of public first contact events in many countries around the world during daylight hours. So as Earth turns on its axis, many areas and countries would be illuminated. First contact events are preferred to be held in remote areas with little population to make it very difficult for humans to preposition any military strength that might try to disrupt the activities. At each of the first contact events around the world, one plan calls for a very small number of ETs to physically meet with specifically selected humans who are well known and respected within their local area. Initially, the ETs would be from races that appear very similar to humans, so that fear and anxiety about the appearance of the ETs would be minimized. The credibility of the selected humans at each event would lend a sense of trust and safety on the part of other humans viewing the first contact events. Whether or not the ET's spacecraft is also visible would depend on the initial level of fear and stress shown by the humans. If the humans react with fear or anxiety, the spacecraft would not be visible. However, if the fear shown by the humans is minimal, the spacecraft may be uncloaked and plainly visible. To achieve widest public knowledge of the event, the actual physical meeting between the humans and the ETs will be recorded and broadcast live through any and all means available, including the Internet. The Galactic Federation has assured us that the actual first contact teams will be comprised of at least one, and no more than two, representatives of the Pleiadian and Arcturian civilizations. These ETs are capable of appearing physically and will be visible to us, and we'll see that they're physically similar to us. In fact, they could even be mistaken for humans and are able to speak with us. So these are the reasons these races have been selected from among the hundreds available for these introductory meetings. In addition to the visible first contact civilizations, ETs from the Sirian and Antarian star systems will also be providing supporting assistance. These beings are not physical, but will be closely monitoring the emotional energies of the humans during the event, and they will provide telepathic information about our emotional reactions to the Pleiadians and Arcturians as the event progresses. The Sirians will be monitoring our emotional reactions from their homeworld about 8.5 light years away, and the Antarians will be in their spacecraft orbiting the Earth. If we show great fear, the meeting will be rather short, But if little stress or anxiety is shown by us, much sharing of important information can occur, and the interview will be extended as desired. Additionally, the blue avians, who originated from a civilization on one of the planets orbiting Arcturus, they'll be maintaining a protective energetic field around Earth that will prevent any harmful energies from reaching Earth. The blue avians will also not be visibly present during the first contact events. And as always, assistance is readily available from the hundreds of Galactic Federation members if additional specific support is needed during this critical introduction period. The ETs are really pulling out all the stops to make sure that our first physical public meetings with them are successful and peaceful. Depending on how the first contact events go, the ETs are also prepared to provide working devices and instruments, along with instruction and training on how we can use and even duplicate them to help us improve our natural environment and our daily lives. Many positive changes are ahead in our individual lives and for our societies, nations, and our world. The ETs have said that they want to assist us in cleansing our atmosphere and oceans of both natural and man-made pollution and poisoning, including the radiation from Fukushima, oil spills in our oceans and seas, the mountains of plastic in our oceans, and even the toxic release from pesticides, herbicides, and harmful chemicals in our rivers and lakes. They say that they're not here to clean up our mess and our planet, but they'll readily provide many technologies that will allow us to expedite the process worldwide, and they'll also work alongside us to return planet Earth to its original pristine beauty. They say they can identify natural foods and grains that are most nutritious and that can be grown in a wide variety of climates and environments. Improved transportation and distribution systems will be suggested that can ensure that none go hungry, and also that allow distribution of necessary resources to all that need them. Improved methods of natural healing using sound and light will be given to extend the health and longevity of our physical bodies without relying on chemical regimens that are often ineffective and may have serious negative side effects. Small desktop devices will be demonstrated that allow us to tap into the universal magnetic energies available all around us that can heat and light our homes and can power our cars, our transportation systems, and virtually any device or instrument that now requires electricity. These devices will be gifted to us so that we can reverse engineer them and make them inexpensively available throughout the world. We'll also finally be given free and complete access to the true history of Earth, of our civilization on Earth, the knowledge of our cosmic brothers and sisters, and about our place in this world and beyond for our use as we see fit. We will also be instructed in the natural methods to develop and expand our higher dimensional conscious abilities, beginning with our innate telepathic abilities. Why telepathy? We're told that an important first step in each individual's spiritual development will be to automatically move into a consciousness of cooperation instead of competition, of helpfulness instead of belligerence, and of tolerance and acceptance of others instead of bias and prejudice. So when the people you meet are also telepathic, it will be impossible to hide your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and intentions from others, and you and everyone you meet will soon leave a service-to-self mentality and move into a philosophy of service to others for the common good of all. And this is the higher consciousness that our cosmic cousins want us to bring with us to other worlds as we emerge into a spacefaring civilization and reach for the stars. So that was the plan in 2016. In January 2019, I asked Chiton, an Andromedan who's assisting the Galactic Federation during the current evolution of humanity's consciousness, I asked Chiton for a separate update on the same subject, and I selected a different channel from the one used with him before in 2016. Chiton reported that the general scenario previously described in the 2016 book is, quote, still our primary interest, unquote, but also that many options have been considered. He also stated that of the 4 preconditions for public first contact, the first precondition has been met. The second precondition is, quote, within reach, unquote, and that they do not see an issue with that particular consideration. The third precondition is no longer an issue. Chiton said, quote, while we have the power to ensure that no ETs would be harmed, we would prefer that those steps be taken on the part of the humans first, unquote. The fourth precondition, that no harm would come to the humans witnessing the first contact event, is more problematic since, quote, many of your nations do not limit the ownership of private firearms. There seems to be an increase in incidents of using those implements, and as long as that kind of climate is active, we would not feel that this would be one of those places selected for first contact, unquote. In other words, the ETs do not want humans to hurt other humans. And when humans end their prejudice and biases between different races or those with a different color or belief and start behaving like a single human culture, then public first contact events are possible. However, Chiton also said that humanity has evolved as far as it can go without a significant increase in its understanding of the nature of life in the universe, and that there is much intelligent life in the universe and beyond Earth. He said, quote, evolution as a species and as a worldwide culture is necessary, with some divisions that are willing to cooperate with those around them rather than fight for pieces of Earth. The majority process going on with humans is very threatening to those who enjoy violence and power over others and don't want to see it end. But at any time we wish, we could simply step in and say, we're here, get used to it, grow up and move forward. But humans would benefit more from maturing to a point where they are willing to accept a request to meet with ETs without it just being done to them. We believe that environmentally, Earth could be entering an irreversible crisis if humans choose to continue ignoring issues such as global warming. Then it will reach a point where, not even with our powers, could we reverse the effects. ET first contact needs to happen sooner rather than later. So we may end up forcing the issue somewhat if we can do so without it becoming volatile. We are attempting now to decide when sooner would be as opposed to later. Learning the skills of maintaining an individual identity while at the same time cooperating with other individuals and larger groups is an advanced, mature species skill. Your people must move out of what it means to be a member of a specific group and into what it means to be a human. We are noticing an increase in the number of people interested in these kinds of meetings and organizations, those from the marginally curious to the deeply committed. These organizations can be used as support bases for those individuals who want to promote and work together to help each other as this global event comes, because it will, of course, be monumental to the future of all mankind. Humans are not known for taking those kinds of changes easily, and we would say to everyone that the future of the human race lies in cooperation. But at this point in time, that is an advanced skill, and humans are just now beginning to learn and practice what that means. What you need to know is that first contact is inevitable, or Earth will not survive. The arrival of the ETs is inevitable, and will come in a way that will benefit all of the planet, and all of the countries, and all groups. Humans need to mature into a single human culture of cooperation before moving into the Galactic Federation as a co-equal with many other advanced spacefaring cultures and governing bodies." Unquote. Ashtar has said that the ETs in our skies and oceans are all highly developed, both technologically and spiritually, and they absolutely respect the free will of humans and will not interfere in our collective activities unless invited to do so by world governments. Ashtar has previously reported that private first contact meetings between humans and the ETs have already happened in many countries around the world, and this has been confirmed separately by Archangel Michael. However, to my knowledge, no government or head of state has formally publicly announced this yet. Instead, physical face-to-face meetings have been held between individual, highly placed humans and Arcturian and Pleiadian representatives, with the request that the humans assist others within their government to promote full public announcements that the ETs are really here, and it's really time that humanity recognizes and accepts that. Regardless, the ETs have consistently said that if our governments ask for their help, they're here to help us in any way they can, and as we become a spacefaring civilization, we may even be offered membership in the Galactic Federation and begin to explore the galaxy with our space brothers and sisters. In April 2023, Ashtar, the commander of the ET ships in our skies, reconfirmed that the rate at which ships participate in Operation Peekaboo and making crop circles will increase, and private one-on-one physical meetings between humans and the ETs, primarily the Arcturians and Pleiadians, these will also increase, with hundreds of individuals in positions of local prominence already having been physically contacted. The mission of these contactees is to spread the knowledge of the presence of the ETs here on Earth and in our skies to those who are ready to listen. Archangel Michael has reported that galactic and solar energies will continue to increase as we head toward the solar maximum in 2025, and will begin to affect in a positive way the dormant strands of human DNA in preparation for expansion of human awareness into what he calls the fifth dimension of consciousness. As a recent example of the ET's Operation Peekaboo, Ashtar also reported in April that they had conducted an experiment to see how humans would react if several ET craft uncloaked in the skies over the battlefield between Russia and Ukraine. These craft were seen visually by many people on the ground and even recorded by specialized equipment at a meteor tracking station in Kiev. Several objects in the sky were tracked and recorded as moving at speeds of from Mach 1 to Mach 20. However, the fighting on the ground didn't stop, and the ET's experiments were not considered successful. So, as a result, the ET's plans for full public first contact have now been put on hold until all wars cease and global calming happens. Ashtar estimated that this may take humans as long as until 2028 or 2035. So it's really basically up to us. If you're interested in all the details within each of the 9 channeled and transcribed updates since publication of The ETs Speak, they can be downloaded as a single PDF file from my website simply by pointing your browser to https:// www.howardbeatty.com/updates.pdf. This is case sensitive and is all in lowercase with no spaces. We've also been informed that there are other universes to explore as well. During a past life regression session with one of our spiritual research group channels, she described a lifetime that she experienced on another planet in a different universe. In that world, she was incarnated as a conscious flying being who belonged to one of two sentient races on that planet. The other race was a terrestrial humanoid form, and the two races peacefully coexisted, with each race symbiotically contributing to the welfare of the other race. However, the discussion of dimensions is less understood because of the limitations of human language. In several channeling sessions, we learned that the higher beings, the spirit guides, archangels, and so on, they use the word dimensions as a way of categorizing degrees of energetic and spiritual evolution while in the physical realm. Archangel Michael has provided his interpretation of dimensions as follows. The first and lowest dimension of physical existence is characterized by the static crystalline structure of the atoms, elements, and molecules that make up physical earth, dirt, and stone. The second dimension is characterized by the plant kingdom, which exhibits growth and reproduction. The third dimension of consciousness is represented by the animal kingdom, which exhibits growth, reproduction, movement, and self-preservation, including several levels of intelligence, and in 3 levels, full sentience, but with different attributes, depending upon their level of spiritual development and how they interact with other humans. The fourth dimension is the astral realm, where at night your consciousness temporarily loosens its energetic connection with the physical body to review and assess the events of that day and to regenerate the spiritual energy needed to address the mental and emotional challenges in the physical world on the following day. The lower level of the fourth dimension is inhabited by souls who haven't evolved from the lower levels of third-dimensional consciousness while they were living. And this level may also include those who have died suddenly and are confused about where they are, as well as those who are lacking in spiritual energy and need to derive life force energy from living beings, such as drug addicts or habitual criminals. In the upper levels of this fourth dimension, your soul may also visit with deceased family and friends during the interlude while they're planning and preparing to return to another physical lifetime. The fifth dimension of consciousness is inhabited by those who have completed most of the lessons that third dimensionality can teach them and are in the process of ascending directly from third-dimensional life to fifth-dimensional life. This ascension process is not a group event, such as some expect may happen on a global scale, but instead it's an individual accomplishment that each has chosen and diligently worked toward, not something that the universe does to them or for them. So ascension is a gradual and continuous personal journey, not an event, although there may be several significant happenings in one's lifetime that accelerate an individual's lifetime choice. For those who have moved into fifth-dimensional consciousness, one of the first new abilities they'll learn is that of telepathy, or the ability to exchange mental thoughts and ideas with another person. When everyone is telepathic, you'll automatically know if someone else is lying, and they will know when you're lying. So, truth between and among humans will become the norm, and everyone will automatically know what's in the greatest good for themselves, their family, friends, community, and the entire world. As one continues ascending in consciousness into the 6th through 12th dimensions of consciousness, humans will still have a physical body, but one that becomes increasingly less dense and more lighter and brighter. Additional spiritual abilities also come with these higher levels of being. For instance, we've learned that the ETs use thought teleportation beyond the limitations of physical space-time and the speed of light as the primary method of transportation between stars and galaxies for their ships and for themselves. And when all the lessons that physical lifetimes can teach us have been learned, we'll then graduate into the 13th dimension and above, the unembodied levels of pure spiritual consciousness, to continue our journey of exploration and learning about all that the spiritual realms can teach us. I was also given another way of understanding levels of consciousness during my near-death experience a few years ago. During a heart operation to bypass 4 blocked cardiac arteries, I was physically unconscious while under general anesthesia, but I watched the operation through the ceiling of the operating room and heard the nurses and the surgeons and the clanking of instruments in their trays. And at one point I became aware of a sensation in the back of my head and knew that my body had suffered a serious stroke. And soon I heard a nurse say, "Doctor, his heart has stopped beating." Instantly I became aware of a middle-aged man dressed all in white and with calming blue eyes that looked right through me. And somehow I just knew that this was a spiritual being that I just call the greeter, and an angelic being who, after the body has died, assists souls back to the spiritual realm. He looked at me, through me, and said, "Howard, you have a choice now. You can return to your physical body, or you can come home with me. What choose?" But before I could answer, I became aware that I was separate from and observing the greeter and the other me, and I heard myself thinking, "I wonder what the other me will choose." So in that instant, who or what was the me that was observing the operation and talking with the greeter? And who or what was wondering what I would choose? Well, obviously, I chose to return to my body, and the next thing I was aware of was awakening from the anesthesia and unable to move anything on the right side of my body, and my voice was quite slurred. But I could clearly recall what I had seen, heard, and felt during this experience with the greeter. After much inpatient and outpatient physical therapy, I regained the ability to speak for a few minutes and to stand and walk a few feet before tiring. Later, after reviewing the experience with my spirit guide, I came to understand that the part of me who watched the operation and talked with the greeter was my own higher self, or the holographic part of my soul energy can safely incarnate into the physical body and its nervous system, and that the part of me who wondered what my higher self would choose is my greater soul energy. And this is all documented in detail in Chapter 5 of my 2018 book, The Art of Metaphysical Communication. However, as flexible and effective as the Spiritual Journeys program is, it does have one shortcoming that I need to mention. As a hypnotherapist and the director of each Spiritual Journeys session you'll have with your clients, you'll first teach him or her how to achieve the Esdale state of very deep hypnosis all by themselves. Therefore, you must be a certified hypnotherapist in order to legally and ethically teach self-hypnosis to another. However, subsequent hypnotic sessions with your client will be significantly shortened when they're able to achieve this state in just a few seconds without a formal hypnotic induction from you. So you'll probably enjoy several additional sessions with each of your Spiritual Journeys students, depending on what they want to explore further. However, they still require a director to coach them through their journeys on any of the 3 additional and optional pathways offered. And you, as a hypnotherapist, will also need to be guided to fully explore your own spirituality, because the need to think about anything at all while in hypnosis usually engages the conscious mind and breaks the heightened state of awareness. Even I needed to be guided through the journeys I've taken when I was the channel. So I simply asked one of my experienced channels to become my director and guide my awareness to the topic I'm exploring. Alternatively, 2 hypnotherapists could swap at least the first 3 spiritual journeys sessions with each other to get started. So, how can I best use regression therapy? Well, the best way I can think of is to first teach your clients and students how to easily and quickly reach a greatly expanded state of conscious awareness so they can reliably make conscious contact with their higher self and their spirit guide. The individual processes I've used to do that are fully documented in the Spiritual Journeys program. But really, any technique that you use to teach your clients how to achieve a reliable conscious connection to their own soul self is great. But a very important question is, what do you do next? Where do they go? Or more importantly, where do they want to go? The Spiritual Journeys program investigates 3 optional pathways of continuing, depending on the client's wishes and objectives. If your client is interested in healing any aspect of themselves or others, one of the 3 optional sessions will probably be appropriate for the client, depending on their own familiarity with spiritual energy healing techniques. For those who are just dipping their toe into self-healing therapies, they can be introduced to the violet flame meditation held in their own temple of healing. This meditation is much more effective when done in a highly altered state of conscious awareness. And for those who would like to experience a true spiritual healing from Archangel Raphael and the healing angels, bringing your own or a remote client's higher self to the healing room in their spiritual area is ideal. And for those who are ready to actively participate in their own spiritual healing processes, guiding your client's higher self through a Pyramid of Power session can be a powerful experience. This format is similar to the hypnotic chair therapy or Roy Hunter's parts therapy, where their higher self and you as the hypnotherapist are the participants in your spiritual temple, along with the overlighting presence of Creator. The personal soul exploration pathway has been constructed specifically for those who want to rediscover who and what they are as a spiritual being. Each session is optional, but should be taken in order as far as the client wishes to explore. The first session begins with a pleasant, non-therapeutic past life regression to introduce the regression process to clients who have never visited a past lifetime before, or are just being introduced to hypnosis sessions. The second session investigates their very first physical lifetime on planet Earth. Where was it? Were you a girl or a boy? Can you tell about when it happened? Etc. Get all the details of what you did and how you felt about this first experience on Earth. In the third session, the client recalls their very first memory it had as an unembodied individual spiritual consciousness separate from Creator's presence. What were they aware of? How did they feel? And what did they want to investigate? Where did they want to explore? Did they explore other worlds before deciding to visit Earth? Which ones? And why did they choose that world? And finally, in the fourth session, they're asked to recall their very first moments, feelings, and impressions after being created as a soul by Creator. Usually, they're also aware that their guide is with them, witnessing their own creation event. With the experience of recalling this moment, they then know who and what they truly are as a spiritual being, created to explore and investigate whatever they choose, and their conscious self-awareness is changed forever. In the third optional pathway, the client is free to explore both the spiritual and physical realms and to investigate whatever they choose. There's an unlimited number of topics that can be explored, again, each in a separate hypnotic session. I wanted to begin by exploring the structure and organization of all the information in the Akashic record itself, and learned that there's a separate Akashic record of my own soul's experiences, a separate record for all of humanity's existence, a record for each planet and each galaxy. So when we want to know about an event or object, all we have to do is ask. And as a matter of convenience, I usually ask my guide or the client's guide if I'm permitted to access the Akashic record to investigate whatever I'm interested in, and my guide will automatically know if the conditions for my access to that information have been met. So as a hypnotherapist, you already have several regression tools backed up by solid training in your toolbox of techniques. But with the additional tools of the Spiritual Journeys program, you'll be better able to provide additional levels of personal and spiritual development far beyond conventional past life regression therapy. You'll be able to assist your clients into their own consciousness-expanding experiences that will allow them to consciously connect to and communicate with their own higher self and spirit guide, and to discover their innate spirituality. And in so doing, their own light and love will easily radiate from them to their family, friends, and everyone they meet. The second edition of the 8.5 by 11-inch handbook is written for both the public and for spiritual hypnotherapists. For the public, it provides an abbreviated description of what the hypnotherapist will do in each of the several journeys, but it doesn't tell how to do each step. No scripts are provided in this manual. However, it does contain at least 2 separate transcriptions from different channels for each journey in the 3 optional pathways. And if there are elements of the Spiritual Journeys program that are relevant to your practice, the complete program documentation is freely available to certified hypnotherapists only. Since I no longer have an active hypnotherapy practice, I'm sharing what I've learned with others who may want to incorporate or adapt my processes into your own toolbox of techniques. Simply email me a copy of your hypnotherapy certification, and I'll provide a link for you to download the entire folder containing suggested hypnotic scripts for each of the individual Spiritual Journeys sessions. Also included is a more detailed instructional PowerPoint presentation, as well as additional program documentation. I also maintain the original copyrighted PDF transcript for each channeling session in our Spiritual Research Group archive since we began seriously exploring the spiritual realms in 2014. We've gathered much new and uplifting information from many sources, including Creator, the Elohim, archangels such as Michael and Raphael, from Ascended Masters Saint Germain and Kuan Yin, from the spirit guides and higher selves of myself and each of our channels, as well as representatives of many extraterrestrial civilizations, including the Greys, the Arcturians, Pleiadians, Syrians, Antarians, Blue Avians, and representatives of our own Milky Way's Galactic Federation and the Andromedan Council. These sources have been keeping our SRG up to date on the increasing cosmic and galactic energies we are now experiencing and how they're affecting us physically and energetically. In addition, we've also investigated the Akashic records to gain a better understanding of many topics, such as the nature of the spiritual realms and the angelic kingdom, crop circles, and who made them, and why, the Elohim and their functions, the Holy Grail, was it real? Walk-ins and soul cohabitation, learning to work with the 5D abilities of telepathy, teleportation, and telekinesis. And Kundalini energies, are they safe? Interspecies communications, and much, much more. So, with the recent influx of transformative energies, Archangel Michael has encouraged me to open up selected transcripts in our Spiritual Research Group archive to other responsible groups for review and comment. And I ask only that the integrity of each channeled message you download be retained and honored in the sense that each is provided. This archive will also continue to be updated as further channeling sessions are held. So thank you for inviting me to discuss my own evolution as an energy healer and spiritual regression therapist, and to help spread the messages of our mentors in the sharing sections of the higher realms of consciousness.